Her debut single hit "M Up Style, Oops" wasn't just a song, it was a cultural moment. It skyrocketed to number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100, went gold, and even earned Grammy nominations. Overnight, Blu Cantrell transformed from a backup singer to a full-blown solo powerhouse. Hollywood was watching. Radio stations had her on repeat. And behind the scenes, the industry was buzzing, not just about her voice, but about the powerful names suddenly circling around her. Jay-Z, Diddy, titans who didn't just open doors. They controlled the entire building. Blu had the voice, the look, the spotlight, and according to her, the attention of none other than Jay-Z himself. By 2001, whispers were getting louder. Blu had just dropped her debut album. Jay-Z was everywhere, running Rockefeller, dominating the charts, and expanding his empire. They were seen together. Rumors exploded. Some said they were dating. Others claimed Jay was interested, but it never went anywhere. Blu never outright denied it. And then, in 2003, everything took a turn. Blu called in to Wendy Williams' radio show to promote her new album. But Wendy had something else in mind, and what happened next? Let's just say, it lit a fire that never went out.
Jay-Z? Oh my God! I really like him though. And I don't care who he's dating. I always had a crush on him though.
She never said yes, but she never said no either. And that silence, it only fueled the fire. Because that same year, Jay-Z went public with Beyoncé in the timeline. It didn't add up. Rumors had already been swirling about Blu and Jay in the early 2000s, so what really happened between them? Blu never accused Jay-Z of cheating, but she did say the media twisted the narrative. According to her, they only hung out once. But fans weren't buying it, especially after Beyoncé entered the picture, and Blu's career suddenly hit pause, and that's when things started getting messy. Just as Beyoncé and Jay-Z dropped their now iconic Bonnie and Clyde video, Blu was pushing her own visual concept Roundup. She made it clear, she felt she was supposed to be the original Bonnie. And when she saw Beyoncé's version, she didn't hold back. That Bonnie and Clyde video looked real familiar to what I just dropped, she said. Then came the Sean Paul situation. Blu's track Breathe was massive in the UK, topping charts, making waves, and featuring undeniable chemistry with Sean Paul. But not long after, Beyoncé released Baby Boy, same dancehall vibe, same Caribbean energy, same collaborator. To Blu, it wasn't a coincidence, it was a pattern. She told reporters, her song Baby Boy has the exact word, breathe, in the hook. She's ripping me off. No hate, just disappointment. Beyoncé's talented. She didn't have to do that. But Blu didn't stop there. She issued a warning. Maybe she's doing it for press. But if she goes there with me, it's the wrong move. I'm a master at singing. Blu started drawing comparisons. Not just in sound, in visuals, in rollout, even in lyrics. Fans took notice. Some pointed to Beyoncé's song Signs, where she whispers, I was in love with a Sagittarius. I've been hurt by a Pisces. Jay-Z is a Sagittarius. Blu Cantrell, a Pisces. Coincidence? Maybe. But to Blu it was intentional. She told The Guardian, if Beyoncé has a problem with her man, she should deal with him. Don't take it out on me. That same year, Blu tweeted a calm but cryptic message congratulating Jay-Z and Beyoncé on the birth of their daughter, Blue Ivy. Fans didn't feel the love. They felt the shade, because what are the odds the couple who allegedly blackballed her would name their child Blue? It all felt too close. Too personal. And Blu knew it. But while the public was caught up in rumors of a feud, something even darker was happening behind the scenes. It started with a moment, Blu recalled in 2003. In an interview with The Guardian, back then, she was still riding the wave of her debut success, but with fame came fear. She revealed she had done a nude photo shoot at 18, just trying to survive before her music career. Now, with paparazzi everywhere, she was terrified those photos might surface, so she turned to someone she thought would understand. Sean Diddy Combs, but his response, I told him I was worried those old nude photos might come out, she said, and he just said, well, I've seen you nude and you looked cute. Babe, that moment stuck with her, not just because it was inappropriate, but because it confirmed her fear. She wasn't being seen as an artist. She was BJECTIFIED. And Diddy. He wasn't just a bystander. He was a key player. Years later, whispers resurfaced. Had Blu and Diddy dated? It was never confirmed, but the phone calls, the familiarity, it didn't seem strictly professional. And then, in 2024, Blue finally named it. She said her career didn't stall because of bad luck or label drama. It was deeper. It was exploitation, and she laid it directly at the feet of Jay-Z and Diddy. According to Blue, early in her career, Jay-Z positioned her not to be mentored, but to be used. Not protected, not promoted, traded. And Diddy, he's the one who benefited. Blue says she was manipulated into situations where she felt pressured, trapped, and eventually discarded. And here's the kicker, she's not the only one making those claims.
Blue. The first Blue. Not they daughter Blu Cantrell. It's time to talk. Jay-Z worked very hard to erase you and me.
Freak's the term now whispered in the darkest corners of the music industry, and somehow, Blu Cantrell's name keeps coming up. She says those early encounters with Jay-Z and Diddy weren't just shady. They were orchestrated. From the moment she stepped into the spotlight, the game was rigged. There were people behind the scenes quietly deciding how far she'd go, and what she'd have to give up to get there. And the second she started asking questions, doors started closing. One year, she's performing at award shows. The next, gone. No press, no tour, no rollout, just vanished. And the names that knew her, Jay-Z, Beyoncé, Diddy, they just kept winning. The deeper Blue looked, the more it all started to make sense. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a system. And in her case, it all began with a phone call, a photo shoot, and a promise, one that led her straight into the hands of the people who would later erase her. Beyoncé didn't just compete. She shut it down by 2004. Blue wasn't just losing momentum, she was losing everything. Her label deal, her visibility, her voice, and according to Blue, this wasn't just the music biz being tough. It was personal. It was planned. She claimed Beyoncé didn't just take inspiration or outshine her, she closed doors. Quietly and strategically, from behind the scenes. And it started with Arista Records. After 2 successful albums, So Blue and Bittersweet, and a #1 international hit, she should have been gearing up for album number 3. Instead, her contract vanished. Literally, the label just forgot to renew it. That's what Blue said happened. Suddenly, no budget, no promo, no team, and her lawyer. Turned out he was also representing them. A complete conflict of interest. They were all working together, she said, to take what was mine. She didn't just lose momentum, she lost control. Her catalog locked up, royalties mismanaged, collaborators gone, calls stopped, opportunities dead silent. And Beyoncé's name, it kept showing up, not on paper, but in phone calls that didn't happen, in partnerships that went cold, in a game Blue was suddenly no longer allowed to play. While Blue faded, Beyoncé soared, partnering with Jay-Z, Diddy, Sean Paul, the very people Blue had once been aligned with. And the timing, it wasn't subtle. Blue's second album underperforms in the US. Arista forgets to renew her contract. Beyoncé signs new deals, grabs Grammy wins, and takes over the charts. Blue, silenced. To Blue, this wasn't coincidence. It was strategy, calculated, and worst of all, unnecessary. She said there was room for both of them. But instead of lifting another black woman up, Beyoncé, in her words, edged her out. Even the name Blue Ivy didn't sit right with fans who remembered. Blue was first, she could sing, she had heat. One fan wrote, "I know Jay is behind her downfall." Another added, "There is no way Beyoncé naming her daughter Blue Ivy is a coincidence. No way." To Blue, the message was loud and clear. The industry chose their queen and buried the threat. Not with a diss track. Not with beef, but with silence, cold, calculated, final. And when Blue did speak up, no one listened, that is, until 2014. When things turned dark. TMZ broke the story. Blu Cantrell, barefoot, running through the streets of Santa Monica at 2 a.m., yelling that someone was trying to poison her with gas. Eyewitnesses said she was ranting, ducking, waving her arms, completely panicked. When the police arrived, she told them flat out, "Someone is trying to kill me." She was detained for psychological evaluation. Not arrested, but not protected either. The headlines didn't ask what was wrong, they laughed. But for those who had listened years earlier to her claims of being blackballed, silenced, and exploited, this didn't sound crazy. It sounded familiar. Because Blue's breakdown looked a lot like Jaguar writes. Jaguar had been saying it for years. The industry doesn't just cut you off when you speak out, it breaks you. It makes you look unhinged, unstable, crazy, so no one believes you. She even brought up Eric Sermon, who reportedly jumped out a window the same year Jay-Z dropped the blueprint. No one explained it then. Just like no one explained why Blu's contract disappeared. Why Beyoncé and Jay-Z's daughter shares her name. Or why a Grammy-nominated artist suddenly had zero presence in the industry. Because the truth, it was easier to believe Blu was crazy than to admit she might have been telling the truth. Easier to mock her than investigate. But for those really paying attention, her breakdown didn't look like madness, it looked like a reaction to silence, betrayal, and trauma. So when Blu said they're trying to kill me, she wasn't just screaming in the streets, she was screaming at the system, a system that smiled in her face, and then erased her name. Blu didn't vanish because the music changed. She vanished because the machine decided she was no longer useful. When she started asking about her money, her contract, her treatment, those questions were met with dead air. And then, boom, silence. After the release of Bittersweet, she expected to prep her third album. She had hits, awards, momentum. But suddenly the calls stopped. The support vanished. The unthinkable happened. Her label forgot to renew her contract. Then, she found out her own lawyer was working with the other side. She had no idea because no one warned her. No one told her the rules. She was playing a game she didn't even know she was in by the time she figured it out. Too late, her royalties dried up. Her name disappeared from headlines. And the same radio stations that once blasted Hit 'Em Up style now pretended she didn't exist. Desperate for a comeback, Blu appeared on Celebrity Circus in 2008. It was supposed to be a second chance, but she was eliminated in week 2. Barely featured. Forgotten by the crowd. Behind the scenes, she was dealing with debt, anger, trauma. While Jay-Z, Beyoncé, and Diddy built empires, Blu was left with regrets and receipts. Because what she believes now is this wasn't bad luck. It was a hit job. The industry didn't just rob her of momentum. It robbed her of her voice and punished her for trying to take it back. They told her to stay in line. And when she didn't, they erased her. But here's what they didn't count on. She never forgot, and now she has something she didn't have back then. Receipts. Through interviews, quotes, and cryptic statements, Blu's made it clear. She was exploited, silenced, set up, and she's still watching the same people win off a system that chewed her up. So now, the question isn't whether Blu was telling the truth. The real question is, what's she gonna do with it? Because the moment she drops those receipts, it's no longer about who ruined her career. It's about who gets exposed next.